Welcome to my presentation on recommendations I can make to Dognition company on how to better have users complete tasks, which is an ultimate goal of the company to collect data on various dog breeds, and it is very necessary for them to do so in order to make serious scientific judgments on the breeds themselves and lots of other information. One of the main points to look at is what a user activity looks like through their website, through your website. And here's a series of tasks. It is a series of tasks you have to complete. And in this case, my first graph right here is showing user activity. This is not the dog's completion rate. This is the completion rate of the user themselves. And you'll notice that in each subgroup here, subcategory of the type of tasks they are, usually a user will complete them before dropping off significantly each time. And most astoundingly, right around here, which is about the 20th or between the 20th and 21st task, there's a significant drop-off rate. And in this case, you'll see I've separated them by the promotion that Dognition gave, which seemed to make little difference on the type of activity in terms of the drop-off, especially after that point. Although we'll note that the free start seemed to drop off a little bit earlier when they were given a free start to this. Also, it's not graph here, but when it's ranked by the dog's ID, it's a very similar type of graph. Well, how dramatic is that drop off, and what does it depend on? And well, here we've broken apart the dogs by the dimension or their personality type, and every personality seems to have this almost identical kind of drop off. Maybe some take place a little earlier than others, but almost exclusively, almost all of them, something happens between the 20th and the 21st or 22nd task, regardless of what personality type they are. So the question is, okay, well, what's causing this? Is it the dog personality? It doesn't look like it. Perhaps it's the breed themselves. Well, if you look at this graph right here, on the chart on the left is showing how long it takes in between a dog to complete a task. So, and over here it says for the Cavalier Charles Spaniel, the average time in between tasks, the median time in between tasks was something like 3,000 minutes. So that's days. That's more than 2 days worth between tasks. Whereas so the bigger the box is, the longer the dog breed takes in between tasks. And toward the bottom of this graph, you'll notice that, well, okay, there seems to be some significance on it in the sense that the toy dogs are taking a little bit longer than others, and say the herding or the hound dogs are taking. Now, this is overall. Over on the right is just for task 20 and task 21. And that's significant because even though task 20 sort of resembles what the overall picture did earlier on, task 21 does not. And that's where that significant drop off was. And the question I was looking for was which types of dogs seem to stay in. Now, if you look over here, the collies and the German Shepherds take about 60 minutes per task, and this one is close to 2 hours. And what's interesting about that is that doesn't seem to change. And actually, in fact, the ones that stayed in, maybe the others were weeded out, seem to maybe even perhaps get a little bit faster. But I wonder if this is about how active the dog is or not. One thing to look at, I think, is quite important, is where some of the most activity is for your users. And predominantly the user activities in the United States of all countries. And this graph is filtered out by states whose completion rate is 7 or above. I'm sorry, this is actually filtered out by user IDs that have more than 100 users in each of the states. Sorry about that. And what stands out is there are about 3 states. One is Arizona, Virginia, and North Carolina that have a task completion rate of 13 or 14 or on average. And so I thought that might have been an important thing to look at. And when you actually zoom in and you kind of see, this is Virginia, North Carolina, and this is filtered by zip codes that have a task completion median of 17 or above. Highly significant. I mean, that's their median rate of completion. I mean, there are some districts in here that have 45 or more. But what's interesting about that is they seem to cluster around each other. And I feel that that is a very important and significant thing, especially for Dognition, because one of the main points that I noticed, one of the main things that's lacking from Dognition, at least, is that there doesn't seem to be a mobile app. They don't seem to promote or encourage a sense of community, despite sharing all their data on their site, and everyone can look at that, and they even have a blog. I think that one of the opportunities that they could focus on is this sense of interaction between people, because overwhelmingly this drop-off rate is dependent on the owner and not the dog. So how to fix that? Well, a mobile app, of course, that kind of helps communicate, but also in those clustered areas to run local events. And giving out, and although that Dognition had given out promotions earlier on that seemed to have little to no effect, it wasn't necessarily given out in a more specific area to whether it's a geographic region or a specific dog type. Either way, fostering this idea of groupings and community and personal interaction with each other. When you create a sense of competition, badges, awards, stuff like that, it's easier to feel like you have a specific goal, and it's much more difficult unless you are a highly intrinsically motivated person. So my recommendation is to focus on a sense of user interaction with other users, either grouped by their dog types or personalities that they seem to have, and then reward according to those group types specifically. Thank you for listening.